Sixth quarterback of the 90s, Jim Kelly.
Quick drop, cross at the corner of the end zone. Jordan's got it for a touchdown. Here's Kelly into the middle. It is caught for a touchdown.
Kelly backing up, falls down, gets up, rolls right, hooks, fakes once. Touchdown! Waiting, last play of the game, back to throw, and he's gonna run, and he dives for the touchdown! Kelly to pass. He throws long this time, and it is caught! He's on his way for a touchdown! Dropping back, looking, he throws to the end zone, Brooks, touchdown! Kelly to throw. Looking, throws long to the end zone. Brooks got it.
You're not giving Jim Kelly enough credit here. At number 6, this is a joke.
Sorry, Jim Kelly's offense made him a great quarterback.
Kelly to throw. Short drop. Reed right on the money.
Great thing about Jim Kelly, he was a trigger man of a complex offense and could do it all himself. He's a Terry Bradshaw of his generation.
Bradshaw and Kelly may have a lot in common, but when it comes to championships, they are polar opposites. Both made 4 trips to the Super Bowl, but Bradshaw has 4 rings, Kelly has none. The Bills dominated the first half of the decade like Forrest Gump at the box office. But instead of run, Forrest, run, it was throw, Jimmy, throw.
Hey, the K-gun was one of the great offenses of the 90s.
Takes the snap, backs up, will throw. He's got a touchdown.
That's what you got to do.
Jim Kelly was his own offensive coordinator. Jim Kelly carried that offense and that football team in so many respects.
I think one of the things about Kelly that's really underrated is how smart he was as a player.
It is amazing how fast his brain worked. I mean, he saw the field and snapped off the plays as rapidly as anybody could.
Here's Kelly to throw. He pulls it down, throws, Reed's got it at the 30, and in for the touchdown.
Jim Kelly's probably the most unlucky guy in the history of the NFL.
Maybe more than any other quarterback in football this side of Dan Marino, it's unfortunate that he never won a Super Bowl.
Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, but you always think why.
Kelly came up small in the Super Bowls.
Kelly on a bootleg, looking, throwing it in the end zone, intercepted!
Kelly's touchdown interception ratio in the Super Bowls, 2-7.
Kelly to throw, hit as he throws it out, intercepted!
I think Jim has taken far too much of the blame for the 4 Super Bowl losses.
No matter what, you think of him as a 4-time Super Bowl loser. Not the guy who got to 4 Super Bowls, not the guy who finally made the Buffalo Bills into a good football team.
He throws to the end zone, Brooks, touchdown!
And the fact that he wasn't able to win despite going to 4 Super Bowls, I think is just unfortunate for him in his career and unfortunate for loyal Buffalo Bills fans.
I believe that Jim Kelly taking his team to 4 consecutive Super Bowls might be something that never accomplished again.
And to have him at 6th is ridiculous.
A really successful career, but he just couldn't get there. You know what? He was the Donovan McNabb of the 90s.
Kelly to pass. He throws. Touchdown. Incredible.
There's so many great things you could say about Jim Kelly, but he's the guy who lost 4 Super Bowls.
Jim Kelly deserved better. He was a great quarterback.
For my money, Jim Kelly was as good a quarterback as we saw in the 90s.
Feisty, tough, gritty. Very gutty, very gritty.
A true leader out on the field.
Extremely competitive.
One of the fiercest competitors that I know.
One of the guttiest, if not the toughest quarterback ever to play.
He's the toughest guy I've ever met. He's the ultimate warrior.
Jim Kelly's peers know the pressures and perils of the quarterback. And they also recognize that Buffalo's number 12 is not your typical pocket passer. His accomplishments and failures have reached record-breaking extremes. So, too, has his toughness.
I've always considered myself one of the toughest guys. I'm not just speaking of National Football League. I'm speaking of everyday things, I guess when you grow up in a family of 6 boys, you got to be tough. I can remember many days of my 3 older brothers beating on me and me beating on my little brothers. And if you weren't tough, you weren't part of the group. You weren't a Kelly.
There's something inbred in him that that he has developed over the years, a mental toughness as well as a physical toughness, that he's going to give you everything he has. And the one thing that beyond a shadow of a doubt he did better than any quarterback I've ever seen, his willingness to stand in the pocket under a tough rush, guys bearing down on him. He knows the receiver's going to come up and willing to take the hit just to get the completion and really sacrifice his body. And he would do it week in and week out.
I think he likes it better when he takes a lot of hits. If he's not beat up after the game, he probably doesn't feel like he played very well.
Sometimes I enjoy getting hit. It wakes me up. Sometimes when I'm having sort of a bad game, and all of a sudden I'll get blindsided, it wakes me up.
Kelly has had his share of wake-up calls.
I've never seen a guy get hit so many times, take so many hits to his whole entire body and get right up and still go out and perform and still give us an opportunity to win football games. I mean, he can go out there and he can have a broken leg or arm or whatever. You know, he's going to try to attempt to get out there in that football field.
I can remember one time throwing one like this that, hey, his bell's wrong, he doesn't know what he's doing.
He got hit pretty good, and, I was sticking to the sideline, telling the coaches, hey, we need to get Frank in here. We need to get Frank in. The gym is out of it, and he saw me do that, and I think it just snapped on him. Hey, leave me alone. I know I messed up, but I want to play this game. And I was like, all right, well, you go ahead.
You can tell something's wrong with it. And first of all, he goes 56, which is just an off-tackle running play. So we run it. He calls it again. We run it. After about the 5th time in a row, we're going, wait a minute, something's wrong here. So I turned and said, man, what's up, And we run the same play. So well, give me another one. That's the only one I can think of.
We played in New Orleans, and I remember getting the heck beat. I got sandwiched one time, and I went hit the turf in my head, and I looked up, and I just saw stars, and the dome was spinning, and all I heard was the fans just cheering because they thought they knocked me out of the game, and I said, oh, I'm not leaving this game. I popped right back up. We wound up beating them.
He has the belief that as long as he's in there, he's going to win. And that's another part of where his toughness comes from, because he's like, I'm staying in here because we're going to win if I'm in here. And if I let it go, then we might not win.
I've been in a game where he threw 3 interceptions in the first quarter of a game. Most guys would wilt and go into a shell. Before the game was over, he'd thrown 5 touchdowns. We won the game.
One of the great qualities that a quarterback needs is to have the ability in the late in the game to just suck it up and go get it done. Kind of grit in your teeth.